On behalf of the government and people of Nigeria, I am delighted to welcome you all to this crucial conference on the Lake Chad with the appropriate theme, and I quote, "Saving the Lake Chad to revitalize the basin's ecosystem for sustainable livelihood, security, and development," end of quote. We meet at this conference to deepen local and international awareness of the existential threat to probably over 40 million people in the nations straddled by the Lake Chad, the republics of Chad, Nigeria, Cameroon, and Niger, and also the Central African Republic, who depend on this water body for their livelihoods. Once the 6th largest lake in the world, providing fresh water and supporting fishing and livestock for so many countries for centuries, the Lake Chad River Basin has now shrunk, we're told, by 90% of its size, from a peak of 25,000 square kilometers to currently somewhere in the region of about 1,350 square kilometers. The implications of this are grave indeed. As the lake has shrunk and desertification has intensified, large numbers of people once dependent on the lake for livelihood, for fishing, for irrigation, for farming, and drinking water for cattle have been left bereft. Migration and resettlement have intensified. Farmers and fishermen have been confronted with leaner harvests, and pastoralists have been compelled to venture farther in search of food and water for their cattle. That foray deeper southwards has led to deadly clashes in Nigeria and in parts of West Africa between herdsmen and farmers. Not surprisingly, the northeast of Nigeria and the far west of the Chad, where the lake is located, have in the past several years been the epicenter of Boko Haram insurgency. The insurgents have been able to draw recruits from a desperate, idle, and yet growing youth population. But this ecological catastrophe is only one side of the story. The other side of this is the determined and commendable work going on to redress it and rewrite the fate of the Lake Chad Basin and its people. The last 30 years have seen multinational efforts at halting the decline of the lake and replenishing it. These include, one, plans by the Commission's member countries to replenish the lake by pumping water from the Congo Basin through the Ubangi River and then on to the Lake Chad. The feasibility study of this interbasin water transfer from the Congo River to the lake, which was supported by Nigeria with a grant of $5 million. And three, the approval and implementation of the Lake Chad Basin's Commission Strategic Action Program in 2008 and its implementation, the creation and fundraising for a 5-year investment plan, 2013 to 2017, aimed at safeguarding the ecosystem of the basin. In 2012, the Lake Chad Basin Commission, the LCBC Summit of Heads of State and Governments, adopted the Lake Chad Basin Water Charter as a legal instrument for sustainable water management of the lake. All LCBC member countries have ratified the charter, except perhaps for 2 countries, which are in the process of doing so. And most recently, the LCBC member countries have, with support from the World Bank and the French Development Agency, prepared the Lake Chad Development and Climate Resilience Action Plan, LCDAP, for the period covering 2016 to 2025. Your Excellencies, this international conference is therefore just a follow-up to all of these previous efforts and interventions. Over the next 2 days, this conference will see experts from around the world deliberate on a wide range of issues relating to the current state and the future prospects of the Lake Chad, the Lake Chad water transfer, and other interventions targeted at restoring the lake, regional cooperation for peace and security, and funding and investment approaches. This, we hope, will produce a roadmap that will guide the all-important decision-making of the high-level meeting, which is scheduled, as you know, for Wednesday. I'm particularly delighted that the international community is beginning to see the Lake Chad Basin issue as a challenge with global implications, but also taking steps to actively support the efforts of member countries of the Lake Chad Basin Commission. We must therefore thank the United Nations and its agencies, especially UNESCO, which is a co-organizer of this conference, the African Development Bank, the World Bank, and other development partners. Our gratitude also goes to the Lake Chad Basin Commission and the International Commission of the Congo-Ubangi-Sangha Basin, CICOS, as well as other participating nations for the collective resolve and the political will to tackle the environmental challenges affecting the Lake Chad. Let me also extend appreciation to Nigeria's Federal Ministry of Water Resources and the Federal Ministry of the Environment, who have jointly spearheaded Nigeria's efforts regarding the restoration of Lake Chad. The cooperation and collaboration that underpins the efforts to save the Lake Chad must not be allowed to flag. The world will pay a steep price if stakeholders choose to resort to unilateral actions and the pursuit of selfish interests if we collectively fail to rise boldly to this challenge. Let me therefore use this opportunity to solicit even greater regional, continental, and international support for this cause. We must, as a matter of necessity, also put greater effort into the inclusion and integration of local communities and civil society groups in the design and implementation of the interventions for the restoration of the Lake Chad Basin. Your Excellencies, let me assure you of the unflagging commitment of Nigeria, a founding member of the Lake Chad Basin Commission, and the country with the largest number of people affected by the fortunes of Lake Chad, and perhaps the biggest contributor to its funding needs so far, to supporting the implementation of the outcomes of this conference and the restoration of the Lake Chad Basin. Saving the Lake Chad is pulling our region back from a major economic, social, and ecological disaster. Saving the Lake Chad is restoring and preserving the livelihoods of millions, but perhaps more importantly, preserving a resource that will be crucial to the economic sustenance and security of the fastest growing population in the world. While I thank you all for listening and wishing you very fruitful deliberations, it is now my very special honor and privilege to declare this conference open. Thank you.